Alrighty, Lumberjacks, welcome back to another Logging from Scratch episode. So this time around we're going to be doing something a little different, video-wise. So the program I was using to make all the little time lapses and the clips and kind of cut the videos up has kind of died on me, and I'm getting some kind of error I can't seem to correct on it. So we're going to have to go back to the little 20-minute episodes with just some commentary. So if you guys were missing that, I know there's a lot of people who wanted it to stay that way for the videos. So you guys will be happy to know that we'll be doing that for the next little bit, at least until I get things corrected with that program. So yeah, like I said, normally I would cut out and do the in-machine stuff and hop back in, but we're just going to cut it all together, and we'll have to talk about politics and the end of the world and all that fun stuff while we do it. So so today's episode, I think what I'm going to do is, last time we were cutting up, we made some nice little piles here with the processor. We had just parked the processor next to this big nasty pile, and we're going to start that up. But I think I'm going to jump ahead and do some cutting here. So let's hop back in the old 822. God, it looks weird having that that head that color to go with it. So I'm going to have to do something about that. Need multiple colors. Change it up a little bit. Oh, man, I haven't played in a while here. This is feeling bizarre. Oh, my tracks are not on, so let's turn those on real quick. There we go. Man, it feels like I haven't operated in a month. It hasn't quite been a month, but feels like it. Let's see if we can remember how to run this thing. It's like riding a bike. Oops. Good start. There we go. So I think I'm just going to keep adding to this pile here, because there's actually quite a bit in here. I try to make it, a worthy processing pile, just because we do want to make it worthwhile to come along and pick all that up. So let's get this one here. And scoop-de-whoop. And we'll go back in here. I don't really know what the best amount to put in a pile, but when I'm processing on site and not doing any skidding, it doesn't really matter. You can just kind of drop them as is. The more in the pile, the better, because it turns more into a deck instead of a bunch, which is probably the better way to go. Oops. So yeah, if I don't get that program working properly, which it doesn't seem like I have much hope in, I should be able to put out more episodes depending on my time here. Again, depending on schedules and stuff like that. I should have a little bit more time, because unfortunately I found out that we lost our jobs at the mill that we were doing there. Because we were contractors working for the mill under the scale there, and I guess they've decided to go a different route. So 2 weeks or 3 weeks before we were supposed to start, they let us know that we weren't going back to work. So that was a bit of a surprise. It was actually the shittiest luck you possibly could have, because on Saturday, prior to this information, I had just bought a brand new 2015, well, not brand new, but pretty much brand new 2015 GMC, big 2500, lifted and all the good stuff. Beautiful truck. And then Monday I found out we didn't have our regular extra jobs that we had. And the whole budgeting behind buying that truck was to base it off the mill's wage that we had. So unfortunately, I had to take that truck back yesterday. I took a little bit of a loss, but not as bad as it could have gone. The company I bought it from was really good about it, because they, like, normally if you go buy a vehicle from anywhere, and I've bought in lots of vehicles, I've gone through lots of different ones over the years here, but normally if you buy a new vehicle and you finance it, as soon as it's financed, it becomes your vehicle, like a used vehicle. It becomes you and the bank's responsibility, and you're kind of responsible for it yourself. And because I just purchased it, I was like, oh man, I have no equity in this vehicle. I'm not going to be able to trade it back without taking like a $20,000 loss on it, which is something I really, really didn't want to do. So I talked to the company, which is a place out of Prince George. They're all over Canada, but they're called Driving Force. That was the company I worked with, and those guys were incredible, and they were so good through the whole deal. Like, even before finding out that news, like, buying it, probably one of the best companies I've ever bought a vehicle from. So good. There's a guy named Curtis and a guy named Barry that did the deal with me, and they were just incredible dudes through the whole process. And then after I found out of the job loss stuff, I went back and I was like, hey guys, this is a shitty situation. Is there any way I can kind of, reverse the deal or find a way out of it? And although I'm sure nobody wanted that to happen, I tried to figure out ways to make it work. But unfortunately, the income versus the debt was just a little too high with that truck payment. So I worked it out with them, and they were able to reverse the deal, which doesn't happen often. But they were really good about it. So they've pretty much made a customer for life because of that. I will definitely go back there and buy another vehicle. But you always hear the gimmick from most dealerships, how they say they, stand behind their product and yada, yada, yada. You hear the same old line from most places you buy vehicles. But that place, I can say, was probably the most professional and, understanding group, and actually did stand behind their purchases and stand behind their pricing and what happened. So big kudos to those guys for helping me out in a crappy situation. So now I'm back to no vehicle again, which is fantastic. But really the only purpose for buying a vehicle was for travel to the mill anyway, because that's the furthest job away from me. Everything else is pretty much within walking distance for my other occupations right now. So I don't necessarily need one right now. It is nice to have up here because you can't really do much without one. So I don't know. I'll be looking for the next little while. Maybe I'll just buy kind of a crapper for winter, because nothing's worse than walking around in winter up here. So we'll take a look, see what we come up with, and try to figure it out. But I'll tell you, I'll never jump onto a financing deal again, at least not for those kind of payments for a vehicle that expensive. I will definitely go with something a little more chill. Or the best case scenario, what you should do is you should be saving up, a good 50% of the vehicle's price as a down payment. Or in my case, I would do like 75% in cash and then finance the little bit that's left over. That's the best way to do it for sure. Because those payments, although it was totally fine, like with my job, it would have been fine. Like if we kept the mill job, I still would have made money. Like I would have been doing really well. But as soon as that got taken away, like, oof, those payments were looking pretty darn scary after that. Because I was like, well, gotta get out of this one somehow. But yeah. So if anything, learn financially from me. Anything can happen in your life. Anything can happen financially. Don't take on something huge. I mean, a house is one thing, but don't take on a toy like a truck, or if you're buying an ATV or a side-by-side or something like that. Don't take that on if you think there's any possibility that you absolutely won't be able to afford it in a worst-case scenario. I know it's a hard thing to say because, how are you going to know your job's going to disappear the next day? You don't know, right? And I mean, shit, we've been at that job for like 12 years. This would have been year 12, I guess. So, to have it kind of disappear on us was quite the shocker for both my wife and I, because she worked that position as well. So we both kind of did the same thing. So it sucks, but we're not financially destitute or anything. We both have other jobs. It's just kind of crap news, and it was really bad timing. Like I said, fortunately for me, everything did work out in the end, but it was a very stressful, very not a great time going through all of it, because holy cow, I wouldn't wish that on anybody. And hadn't it gone the way I wanted it to go, oh man, that could have been way worse. So I am very thankful for it working out the way it did. Let's lay this stuff on this hill here. Whenever I'm cutting these trees down, I'm always thinking in my head, okay, I'm going to be walking through here with a processor in a few minutes, so I better make sure that everything is where it needs to be so that I can, A, process it, and B, not have my machine get stuck. So I think I'm just going to keep laying it up on this hill. Now the Tiger Cat 822, this machine that I put together here, has a super short arm on it. And I did that because the weight, well, even in real life, they don't have a very long arm on them if you look at them because it's such a tiny machine. But this way it forces you to keep the weight, especially if you're bunching like I'm doing, it forces you to keep the weight close to the machine. Because obviously the further you stretch your arm out, the more tippy your machine becomes because you're distributing the weight further out from the center of mass, right? So in this case, if you have an arm that's a little or quite a bit shorter, like half the length of the regular arms, it forces you and doesn't give you the option to extend it far enough to make it tippy. So it's all nice and close, and everything is a lot more handleable, if that's a word. to keep everything together. So makes life a lot easier there, bud. Okay, we're kind of getting a little ways away from our block here, so I think I'm going to start backtracking a bit. What I'll do is I'm going to grab this tree, bring it with me. And we're going to go this way. Down the hill here, bud. And I'm going to lay it in this little spot right here. There we go. Let's see if we can get these guys. Oh, this one's nice and close. Might be a little too close. Let's go there. There we go. And we'll just kind of peter it over there. And same with old buddy here. Let's kind of make a little nook here, you know. Can't wait to waste this whole mountain out. This is going to be great. More trees we cut, the better. I still can't believe it's raining in this game. Like, how many time lapses and how many episodes have we done with rain? Like, when did it start? This is ridiculous. I mean, I don't mind it. I like the rain. It's all chill and stuff, but it's just like, holy cow. We went from never raining to, that's it. It's going to rain for the rest of the game. Too much. Too much. So yeah, with all that going on in my life, I was definitely a little reluctant on modding and doing anything for a bit there. Just because I was dealing with a lot of stressful, depressing news and trying to figure everything out and re-budget and replan. And then we're going through a bunch of union negotiations with our other jobs, so that's all being all stressful too. So, you know, sometimes, like, and that's why I always try to tell people, it's like, I love doing this logging stuff. It's always a blast, but if I get to the point where things in my life are taking priority of that because they're more important, I have to take a break from logging. I have to stop for a bit. Because if I try to force myself to do this stuff while I'm distracted or trying to deal with, you know, real life stuff or things that are time sensitive, I'm not going to have a good time doing it. It's going to feel like a job. Like, the last thing I want, and I've had this feeling a few times, is, oh God, I have to get this mod done, or oh God, I have to do this because people are expecting it. And I hate that feeling, because this is not a job. It's not. It's become a bit of a business in a way, because, you know, I have people who support us via Patreon. We have people who support us in the modding community, you know. So I feel an obligation to people to give you the stuff you want, to give you a good experience. But at the same time, if I start treating it too much like a legit business or a job, I mean, like, I'm going to lose interest and I'll be annoyed and I won't want to do this. So I always run through that in my head, trying to figure out, you know, the best solution for how I want to move forward with the stuff we're doing here. Now, luckily, I have an amazing team, you know, with Lydia, Chad, and Josh all working together. You know, when I stopped for a bit here, and I have stopped, had stopped for a bit, they totally took the reins and kept working, kept going, kept throwing stuff at me. You know, mod changes, mod fixes, new models, new toys, all kinds of stuff that they've been working on in the sidelines without me having to, you know, direct them or tell them what to do. And because of that, it's given me the chance to take a break while progress still moves forward on mods. So I can't thank those guys enough for the help. And, yeah, they've been super, super good. It's good to have a good team behind you. That's one thing I've never really had doing this kind of stuff, because I've always, you know, El Solo Lobo, done it all myself for a long, long time. But, yeah, it gets boring doing it all yourself. It gets lonely doing it all yourself. You kind of start to run out of ideas. When you got fresh minds all working together, you know, everyone can kind of come up to conclusions and stuff and throw out better ideas or suggestions. And it really makes a difference. Makes a huge difference. So, yeah. With all that being said, we are definitely, or at least I'm finally starting to get my butt back into gear modding. And we do have a lot of stuff coming down the pipe. It's just taking its time. There's lots of things and lots of changes. And I have my whole desktop is just buried in, like, requests basically for myself and deadlines and things I have to fix. And we got lots of new mods coming, like tons of new things coming. But it's, I always laugh at myself because when I'm modding, my biggest problem used to be like, okay, I have this done. You know, I would burn through mods so fast, and then I'd be like, oh man, now I'm out of models. I don't have anything to work with. I have no new machines, no novelty, no nothing, right? And now my problem is I have too many models and not enough time to turn them all into mods. Because we have, like I said, our whole team's working on different stuff, and I have conversions from old models, and Josh has been giving me tons of new models, and I'm trying to balance it all out, and it's tricky. So then, if you have anything that happens in your real life while you're doing all this stuff, that's when all of a sudden you find it to be even more difficult, because now the time that you had dedicated for doing that kind of stuff is now, Dunskies. You don't have any time to do all that. And that becomes rather frustrating. I think I'm going to lay these right in here in a nice open spot. So, I mean, yeah, you got to hope for the best, and life will always throw curveballs at you. But now I feel as though I'm financially in a position where I don't have to worry about anything that goes wrong. With that truck thing, I had kind of set myself up for defeat if anything went wrong by applying that kind of a extra monthly charge to myself. But in my mind, I was like, oh yeah, we can handle this no problem because we have all these jobs and everything's secure and dee-dee-dee. And then little did we know, not so secure at all. Not so secure at all. So, like I said, it was a great learning lesson. And thankfully for companies like Driving Force, who backed me fully in the undoing of that purchase, I'm able to kind of put myself back into gear. And now it doesn't matter what happens. I mean, even if any of my jobs go, because I don't have a vehicle, and a vehicle cost, as I'm sure a lot of you adult people definitely know, anyone who owns a newer vehicle knows the expenses of a payment and insurance and fuel and maintenance on any vehicle. So to take that entirely, like imagine right now, whatever you have for a vehicle, whether you have a brand new one, you pay insurance, you pay fuel, you pay maintenance, you pay a payment for the vehicle. Now imagine if you were to just entirely remove that from your monthly budget right now. Yeah, so you save a lot of money for a lot of people, unless you own your vehicle already, which is the smart way to go. Buy something outright so it's yours, there's no payments on it. But yeah, it just kind of gives you more control in your life, and you can then focus on other things, and you're not going to be so scared. I mean, I don't want to lose any of my jobs, but right now, just for worst case scenario, if all of my jobs, which I hope in a million years, knock on wood, never happens, if all of my jobs were to suddenly say, hey, you're fired, I could go work at even a McDonald's and I could still pay my bills right now. But the scenario that I had set up for myself, if I was to lose my jobs, in any of my jobs in that scenario that I had with the truck, I would have been toast. In which case I was, because I did lose that one job. And yeah, just kind of annoying. But it all worked out in the end. So I mean, you can't focus on the negatives. You got to focus on the positives, because that's what life's all about. And get back on track, which is great, because now I don't have to wake up at 6 in the morning to go to the mill, which is fantastic. I don't have to work night shift, which is fantastic. And I will have more time for doing modding, which is kind of ultimately what my goal was all along, was to get more time for modding. So, Jesus, we're already at 19 minutes? Oh my God. Have I really been talking this much? All right, well, apparently I can talk. I remember I said in the other episodes, I'm just like, oh man, I want to do time lapses because I never know what to say while I'm operating. Well, apparently I had a lot to say today, so that worked out pretty good. Yeah, geez. Maybe in the next episodes we'll go over some of the details of some of the upcoming machinery or something like that. I don't like to reveal too much because, like I said, I have Patreons. And if you haven't seen Patreon or you don't know what it is, you can go to the link in the description below this video. But basically, Patreon is a place where people support me for $5 a month. They give me that as kind of a support program for future mods, future modeling, all that stuff. And by doing so, you get access to inside information. I like to post teasers and pictures and all kinds of stuff on there to show people what's upcoming. So I try not to reveal too much on these streams, not to keep you guys in the dark, but to reward those guys for the support they give me. So it wouldn't be very fair to me if I, revealed all of the mod information of upcoming stuff on this recorded episode and then said, oh yeah, it's early access information for Patreons only kind of thing. So yeah, as much as I'd love to talk about upcoming mods, I also don't want to make promises, because I've done that in the past where I start talking about a mod, sharing information about it, get everybody excited, and then turns out something goes horribly wrong with the process and we're not able to deliver that mod. So that's why I like to keep people in the dark. Like right now, I kid you not, I have probably 35, maybe 40 mods sitting on my desktop, like models and redos and machines and corrections that need to be completed. But some of it may never come to fruition. Some of it may never actually become a mod. Some of it may be the next biggest thing, and some of it might never be seen by human eyes. I don't know. But I hate to reveal all that and be like, yeah, check this out, it's going to be amazing. And then, towards the end, we're almost 80% through the mod, find out some major part of it isn't going to work, and then let everybody down by people going, well, why didn't you make that? Why didn't you make that? I've had that happen a couple times in 2017, so. Anyways, I'm going to grab this last tree right here because it's staring at me like a sore spot on the road. And then I guess we're going to end this episode, because we're back down to the 20-ish, I won't say exactly 20 minutes, but 20-ish minute episodes, just because that makes life a little bit easier. So like I said, I hope you guys do enjoy the commentary process that happens on these. The time-lapse thing was really fun, but unfortunately that program's having an issue. Not to mention it's very time-consuming doing all the time-lapses and putting in the horrible techno music, so maybe this will save us a bit of time. We can pump out some more episodes for a bit until we get things corrected. So anyway, I'm going to shut her down here. So if you guys have any questions or comments, leave them in the video below. Yeah. And if you guys are in the bush, don't forget to hug a tree. All right, guys. We'll catch you on the next one. See ya.